All right, I'm going to move on to the next point. I'm going to combine this with a point I have later on as well, but I don't remember the context of this one, but I know that he mentioned that he wants teams to build, he wants clubs to build teams that resonate with their fans. And I think this had to do something along the lines of like international, like buying players internationally versus like building teams through their academy. And he had talked about, oh, like the Philadelphia Union have one way in which they kind of go about building their teams versus the way that LA Galaxy goes about building their teams. And I think that's a totally fair point. And he had been asked about San Diego, like what their expectations were for their first upcoming season. And I think he kind of built upon that again. He talked about San Diego. He said he wants to see San Diego be relevant. He wants to see them be exciting, which I think everything he said about them was very fitting for what like the area I think of San Diego kind of represents. And so I think it makes a lot of sense what he's saying. Like there's going to be teams like Dallas and Philly that are known for building through their academy and having a strong academy, and they're going to continue to build that way. And then there's going to be teams like the Galaxy and San Diego and LAFC, which are going to be flashier and spending more money to bring in more big name players. I would have been more interested to hear him talk about the teams that are kind of not in one of those two categories, like a San Jose or a Sporting KC. Like, how exactly do you explain what their policy is? Because they're not exactly a team that's spending and bringing in big name players, and they're not really using their academy. So what exactly like are they building to resonate with their fans there? Like, I would have been
Mhm.
interested to hear his take on that.
Yeah, and I think kind of tying those two together, somebody asked like, oh, like what are you excited about San Diego? And he says he wants them to be successful and he wants them to have a good start and to resonate with the fans. But he goes, it's up to them. They have to build it the right way, right? We're not telling them how to build it. It's not how we do things there. But I think he's right. He mentioned, according to Michael Batista here, he mentioned that he was the one who kind of mandated that academies start popping up, right? Stop doing start working from within and promoting from within. And each team has their own path, right? LAFC are different than Chicago Fire, are different than Philly, are different than Red Bull, are different than New York City, right? And that's totally fair. And I think it gives a positive spin on the uniqueness of a parodied salary capped league, right? It's very easy to not, it's very easy to have the same kind of build between all the teams when you have a salary cap and restrictions on how you can use that salary cap. It's almost like you're forcing them to look the same almost because nobody's going to spend, very rarely are you seeing people spend money on a designated player center back or designated player goalkeeper, right? Like that very rarely happens. So now you go ahead and you say, okay, we're not mandating how you do that. We're going to give you a choice. You either do two designated players for U22s, three designated players, 322s, or you use some combination of the group. You don't need to use them all. You can use more homegrowns if you want. Like, I think it's allowing a bit more flexibility and a bit more uniqueness in the teams, and I think that is only going to be good for the league, right? And the benefit is you can change that, right? If you get to a point and you are like Chicago and you try a three designated player system next year and it goes to crap, great, blow it up, try two and four and see what you can do with that extra gam and see if you can build it properly, right? Like I don't know. I don't see it as a negative thing where you're talking about, oh, you have to build it the right way. So like Chicago doesn't need to bring in seven Polish players like they did in 2002, right? LAFC doesn't need to have five, Mexican internationals. They had Carlos Vela. It was great. They don't need to keep doing that anymore. And I think we're at a point where teams are going to be able to resonate with fans just because they've been here long enough, or we're getting to that point, right? Where if you've been around for 30 years, you've got your diehards, and those diehards are going to bring people around. And having the local talent is going to be good. Having the big name talent is going to be good. At the end of the day, you need to win. Winning brings people in almost as much, if not more, than individuals. So.
Yep, I agree with you there. All right, next point I think is probably going to be one of the bigger points from the press conference.